Well, g'day and welcome to our quick tip number 8. This is actually our second quick tip on the subject of BirdyOz, and that's to replace WebCT next year. And what I want to concentrate on today is showing you what materials that are currently in WebCT might look like after they've been migrated into BirdyOz. So let me get stuck straight into that. Those familiar with WebCT will recognise screens like these, and the fact that in WebCT you tend to have these tabs: Build, Teach and Student View. I'm going to flick into Student View momentarily and have a bit of a look around this subject. So there are a series of icons here on the home page, and clicking on any of these will take us into, in this case, a learning module. Now, a learning module is this sort of structured content where you have a table of contents down the side, and of course by selecting an item from that table of contents you can quickly navigate to that material. It also has some other elements. Let's have a look at that. It has, for instance, an assignment. There it is there. It has an assessment or a quiz is another way to think of that. And it has some discussions, and all of those elements are quite common in many of the WebCT subjects I see. So with that in mind, let's have a look what happens to those particular resources when moved into BirdyOz. So I'm just flicking across now. Here's the same subject, but now migrated into BirdyOz. It has all of those items here on the home page. You'll notice perhaps subtle differences, like they're arranged down the page rather than across, but otherwise the same material is there. I should scroll to the top of the screen, however, and just demonstrate one notable difference. We no longer in BirdyOz have those Build, Teach and Student View tabs. They've been done away with in favour of this, I think, much simpler approach of having an edit mode on, i.e. I'm the teacher and I want to change stuff, or edit mode off, whereas I'm the teacher but now I just want to see it in the same way my students see it. And if I were to, for instance, click into this learning module, which is what you'd seen me do in WebCT before, it looks and behaves the same way. I can navigate through that content by clicking on the links here. As with WebCT, I can actually choose to shrink or collapse out of view this left-hand panel. I'll do that now, and in so doing free up more of my screen so that I can see more going on, and I quite often work that way. But let me show you again those other elements that we should expect to see here. We had some assignments, and there it is there, and if I click on it, it has the instructions that were provided as they were in WebCT. So those items have come across. It has some assessments, and I'll remind you that an assessment is a quiz, and if I were to, for instance, begin this quiz, these are the questions that were in the quiz as it was in WebCT. So that's come across nicely. That's great. And discussions. Oops, so I don't really want to submit that quiz. I'm just going to leave that now and get into the discussions. Here we are. And so there's the discussion item, and that discussion item again is as it was in WebCT. And so my experiences to date is that largely the migration process works and works well. Some of the screens change subtly, and some of the locations of various items move around, but on the whole, if you apply, if you like, 80-20 thinking, the great majority of material just happens and comes across in a fairly seamless fashion, and it's spotting the things which are subtly different, which takes a little bit of time just to navigate and familiarise yourself with. Now, if anyone's interested in me doing some migrations of their content into BirdyOz so that they can have a play themselves, feel free to get in contact with me either via email or give me just drop me a line on extension 1444, and I'll talk you through the process. So thank you for paying attention.